So, this is a conclusion to a series of what makes great fantasy art, whether for creatures, weapons, equipment, and fashion. So, what crowns it all? What is great fantasy art? What is great fantasy design? How do we achieve great fantasy design that inspires everyone for ages and ages to come without making unrecognizable garbage in the process by accident and not knowing about it? Well, the truth is, therefore, the combination of all the previous factors. To achieve a wonderful scene from a fantasy, we need elation or dread or some high emotion, but not to overcompensate and go too far from viewers' ability to absorb. We can shock, but we shouldn't completely spit in the face of the viewer. That's the beginning only, but then we have all the things that we listed, from usefulness, aerodynamics, quality, culture, usability within range of the class of the person. Can they afford it? How can they afford it? What are the classes available? What do they do? Their cultural design and the meaningfulness behind it. Something to be achieved from it that is considered purposeful, that is considered valuable by you, the artist, that you want to convey, therefore, as reasonably viewable, watchable, entertaining, engrossing to the player, to the viewer, to anybody who would watch. And then, of course, as I said, it all needs to be wrapped up in creature comfort and reasonable history of its existence for the people, the creatures, the whatever, because they had to have gotten there. And as we know from humans, we really, even if we occasionally have a paradox in the design, we really want to wear something that we can be proud of wearing and use something that we can be proud of using, because it gives us quality of life. And then sometimes we throw in a paradox, because paradox gives us the illusion that we'll have better quality of life due to it, yet it does the opposite. But it might not do the opposite. It might do something that's kind of neutral-ish or semi-bad or semi-good, but not that good. You know, you don't have to immediately shoot for the most obnoxious. Try to have elegant paradoxes. But you can do even harsh paradoxes as long as you complete them within the previous. Remember about that not spitting in the face that we said. And then, once the paradox is better absorbed, and it will be better absorbed with less, offense, even if it's controversial, by you having it well grounded in the world. And not just in the world needs to be grounded in the viewer. The viewer, as I said before, is not that easily tricked. You do not just ground the world in the world. You need to give viewers something worth watching, but also separately give world some reason for existing in such a manner. Only when both are met does the viewer accept that this is a great thing to see. Because if you only give food for thought to the viewer, but only as an abstract example that you forced into the world, then the viewer thinks it's dumb and forced, even if there's some philosophy and thought to it, even if there's lots of it. But if it's forced, it's bad. If somebody dies, a character dies because it's forced, then it's bad. But the same character can die if it feels right in the world. And then you can have the same message to the viewer without it being forced. So only when both the world and the player are both justified in their presence around this event, only then the event has meaning and beauty. And this goes for every design. And then when every piece is like that, from the shield to the sword to the horse to the rider to everything else in the picture, feels right in just such a manner where pieces of comfy and pieces of vision and pieces of dread and pieces of care and pieces of worry and pieces of might and pieces of pride and pieces of shame and pieces of understanding and pieces of woe and pieces of falsehood and pieces of truth are all present, and then are teamed for some to dominate and others to take the backseat to not overwhelm, as in colors. Colors also, don't make a harsh, horrible mishmash of colors unless, that's what you would wear outside. Unless you have an artistic impression that can be only conveyed in such a manner, but then you also need to want to sort of see it yourself. So if it irritates you in just the right way, or it doesn't irritate you at all, even though it's so clashing, even though it's so crude, then it's possible. But only then, when it's sort of glorious. When you see it and it sort of just inspires you to look at it more, even despite its ugliness or something. That's only then. Only then, when you think of the design in these terms, should you be permitted to finish your legendary art and say that you did. And that is how you get grand fantasy art that will hold up for ages to come. I only say this so that we can make good games. Being a dungeon master, and I am also now starting to be a game developer, so I'm only telling you what you need to know if you want to be a good game developer yourself. I need it, so I learned it, so I'm thinking about it currently because of my own game. I am not telling you just to sound fancy. I'm telling you so that I can put your career in a better place if you have one. If not, if this is a hobby, maybe you'll enjoy it. Maybe you love art, like me. It wasn't always my job to do it. So, if this was useful or unique, maybe you can spare me a click and I could see you here maybe next or even some other week, because every other week I have more such things for you. I make them myself. I'm M, and welcome to dMTable. See you next time.